we are going to discuss the particle nature of electromagnetic radiation. Now we know that the wave nature of electromagnetic radiation could explain phenomena like diffraction and interference, which you don't have to study. But the particle nature, some of the phenomena like photoelectric effect and black body radiation could not be explained by the wave nature of electromagnetic radiation. So this was discussed by particle nature of electromagnetic radiation. So let us see the particle nature of electromagnetic radiation. Now under particle nature, let's first discuss about black body radiation. And black body radiation was studied by the scientist Max Planck. Now, you know that when you heat an iron rod, it first becomes dull red. Now you keep on increasing the temperature, it becomes more and more red. And finally you can see this iron rod becomes blue in color. That is, at very high temperature you find the rod becoming blue in color. Now, so it changed its color from red to blue. And in terms of frequency, we can say that the radiation emitted goes from a lower frequency to higher frequency. And we can define a black body radiation as an ideal body which emits and absorbs radiations of all frequencies is known as black body radiation. Now suppose we plot a graph between intensity of radiation against wavelength. So graph is plotted between intensity of radiation, and on x-axis we have wavelength in nanometer. This is suppose 3000 nanometer, this is 2000 nanometer, suppose here we have 1000 nanometer. Now you can see that as the intensity of radiation first increases with decreasing wavelength, reaches a maximum and then decreases again. Okay, so intensity of radiation first increases with decrease in wavelength, reaches a maximum value and then starts decreasing with further decrease in wavelength. Suppose this is a temperature T1. Now we have a higher temperature, that is T2. At temperature T2 also we can observe the intensity of radiation will first increase with decrease in wavelength, reaches a maximum and then decrease with decrease in wavelength. So this is a temperature T2 and you can say T2 is greater than T1. Or we can say that the intensity of radiation emitted will increase with increase in frequency or decrease in wavelength. Okay. Now Max Planck, to study the distribution of intensity in radiation from black body as a function of frequency or wavelength, Max Planck gave a theory called Planck's quantum theory. So next we are going to discuss Planck's quantum theory. Now, according to this theory, the radiant energy is emitted or absorbed not continuously but discontinuously in the form of small packets of energy called quanta or quantum. Now quantum means it is the smallest quantity of energy that can be emitted or absorbed in the form of electromagnetic radiation. So this is the first postulate of Planck's quantum theory, that is the radiant energy is emitted or absorbed not continuously but discontinuously in the form of small packets of energy called quanta. And in case of light, we can call this quantum of energy as photon. So photon means it is the smallest quantity of energy that is emitted from light. Okay, so photon. Now, the next postulate of quantum theory is the energy E of each quantum of radiation is directly proportional to the frequency of radiation, that is E proportional to nu. So, the energy emitted or absorbed is directly proportional to the frequency of radiation. Now, suppose if you remove the proportionality sign, we can write this expression as E is equal to h nu, and h is a constant called Planck's constant, and its value is equal to 6.626 into 10 raised to minus 34 joule seconds. So, this is Planck's constant. Now, in this expression E is equal to h nu, you can substitute for nu. Nu is equal to c by lambda. So, you can write it as h into c by lambda. Now, if you look at this expression, you can see that the energy of radiation emitted and absorbed is directly proportional to frequency and inversely proportional to wavelength lambda. So, this is Planck's quantum theory. Okay. Now, next we have photoelectric effect. Photoelectric effect was studied by Hertz. Now, what do you mean by photoelectric effect? The phenomenon of ejection of electrons from the surface of a metal when radiation of suitable frequency falls on it is called photoelectric effect, and the electrons ejected are known as photoelectrons. So, what do you mean by photoelectric effect? The phenomenon of ejection of electron when radiation of suitable frequency falls on a metal surface is known as photoelectric effect, and the electrons ejected from the metal surface is known as photoelectrons. Now, you can see the diagram of the equipment in which photoelectric effect is taking place, and here a light of particular frequency, this is the light of particular frequency, when it falls on the metal surface, what happens? The electrons are ejected from the metal surface, and these electrons ejected are known as photoelectrons. And these electrons ejected out are counted by a detector that measures the kinetic energy of the electrons. Okay. Now, let us see the observations made from this photoelectric effect. The first observation is that the electrons are ejected from the metal surface as soon as the beam of light strikes the surface. That is, there is no time lag between the striking of light and the ejection of electron from the metal surface. That is the first observation. Now, the second observation is that the number of electrons ejected is proportional to the intensity or brightness of light. The third observation is that for each metal there is a characteristic minimum frequency called threshold frequency. Threshold frequency, and it is denoted by mu naught. So, each metal should have a minimum frequency called threshold frequency, below which photoelectric effect is not observed. So, only if the frequency nu is the frequency of the incoming radiation, is greater than mu naught. Mu naught is the minimum frequency that should be with the metal. There is a threshold frequency. That is, only if nu is greater than nu naught, what happens? The electrons are ejected from the metal surface. Okay, and the kinetic energy of the electrons ejected increases with increase in frequency of the light used. So these are the three observations made from the photoelectric effect. Now let's see the explanation for photoelectric effect. Now Einstein was able to explain the photoelectric effect using Planck's quantum theory of radiation. Now when a photon means the quantum of energy in case of light is known as photon. When a photon of sufficient energy strikes an electron in the atom of the metal, it transfers its energy instantaneously to the electron during collision, and the electron is ejected out without any time lag or delay. Now greater the energy possessed by the photon, that is the incoming radiation, greater will be the transfer of energy to the electron, and greater will be the kinetic energy of the electron ejected. Or we can say that the kinetic energy of the ejected electron is proportional to the frequency of the electromagnetic radiation. Now since the incoming radiation has energy equal to h nu, the radiation coming to strike the metal surface has energy equal to h nu, and the minimum energy required to eject the electron is h nu naught, because nu naught is the minimum frequency required for the ejection of electron. So the minimum energy required for the ejection of electron will be h nu naught. Then the difference in energy, that is h nu minus h nu naught, will be transferred as the kinetic energy of the photoelectron, or we can write as half mv square. Me represent mass of electron is equal to h nu minus h nu naught. Me is the mass of electron and v is the velocity. Okay, so we can say that a more intense beam of light consists of larger number of photons, consequently large number of electrons are ejected, and it is very large compared with a beam of weaker intensity of light. Okay, so this is photoelectric effect. So study the definition of photoelectric effect, its observations and explanation made by Einstein on the basis of Planck's quantum theory. So with this the scientists could explain the particle nature of electromagnetic radiation, that is black body radiation and photoelectric effect. Some of the phenomenon like diffraction, interference was explained by wave nature, and black body radiation and photoelectric effect was explained by particle nature. So finally scientists came to the conclusion that light has dual behavior, that is light can behave like or it can show wave-like properties as well as particle-like properties. So these are the this is the first development that led to the formulation of Bohr model of atom, that is dual character of electromagnetic radiation. Thank you.